Hey everyone, it's Natalie, and I just had a few quick updates before we get to the meat of the episode and all the tolerating that we do here on To All the Men I've Tolerated Before. So, I hope that you've heard that we have a Patreon, and now we have added a goal to get 25 Patreon members supporting the show. Once that happens, I have some cool perks planned out to release. Spoiler alert, one of them is a pen pal program because I love mail and I love putting stickers on envelopes. So head to the link in the show notes, head to the Patreon, and consider joining us and all the fun we could be having. Also, every Tuesday on Instagram Live at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, we are partnering with Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous to bring you Still Comfy with Jules and Nat. It's a show where we're looking at our comfort TV shows and movies to see if they still make us feel warm and gooey on the inside. So check it out. And I can't wait to see you, whether it's on Patreon, Instagram, or in the DMs. Love you all. Thanks for being here. Hi, everyone. It's Natalie. I wanted to give some context on today's episode, which was recorded in June of 2022. Before we get to Katie's great and wonderful story that I am so grateful that she shared, I did want to offer a content warning. The episode will make mention of both sexual assault and abortions. Due to the episode being recorded in June of 2022, it was before Roe v. Wade was overturned, and I would like to once again offer my gratitude to Katie for sharing this important story, and I hope that it serves as a reflection for everyone on why Roe v. Wade and its overturn was a detriment to humans everywhere and that abortion is a health care right. Thank you. I love you. Enjoy the episode. Hey tolerators, this is To All the Men I've Tolerated Before with Natalie Katona, the show where my guests and I chat about how misogynistic mindsets make it so easy for us to get mistreated during relationships. Today's guest is a brand new friend, Katie Ploss. I had a great time guesting on Katie's show, Bitch, You Need to Hear This. Chatting about some overlap between our two shows. She's here to chat with me about a particular relationship she had that started in high school and just some other fun things that you should know about her and her show. Katie, it's great to see you again.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited. I'm pretty sure I told you this when we recorded, but the whole purpose of me podcasting is to actually make me have more friends.
You didn't tell me that, but it is. I actually have realized that this is an amazing social network.
Right.
To
Who
meet
knew?
all different people. Yeah, it's amazing. I'm totally down for it.
Fame, sponsors, money would be great. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, that's in my mind's eye.
We do have a Patreon, but also friendships.
Yeah, like genuinely making connections.
Yes.
And building a community and all of that is the main goal for me as well.
Yeah. Let's start with Bitch, You Need to Hear This and the community you're building through that podcast.
Yeah, so Bitch, You Need to Hear This is a platform that I created that was inspired by the story I'm going to tell you guys today. But essentially I created the platform to create a space for women to openly share about their resiliency stories. So their experiences moving through something very difficult, and then how did they move through that? What did they do? What have they learned? How have they grown? And to kind of share that experience with the collective and inspire others and remind people that they're not alone in their pain. Mm-hmm. Because I think a lot of people think that they're on an island when they are not talking about what's, going on under the surface. Mm-hmm. And in the world we live in with social media and whatnot, everything's a highlight reel, or perfectionism is a thing. And so I'm creating a space to talk about really raw, sometimes graphic, intense storytelling that really just takes the listeners into a space that they're not normally invited to be in. So it's making waves. That's all I know.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure it does connect with a lot of people because I think it's within like our grief and the heavy things that we go through. That is when we feel the most alone. Like, I love to say that, like, of course, this would happen to me. Well, it's not like the universe decided, Natalie, you will only date narcissists and you'll be the only person who ever dates a narcissist.
Correct.
Like, the whole reason we have the term narcissist is because they make people comfortable enough to form attachments to them.
Narcissists are some of the most charming people you'll ever meet.
To the point where every once in a while, when I'm particularly charming, I'm like, am I a narcissist?
Oh my God, that's so weird you said that. Because I was thinking about that myself. I was like, the other day, I'm like, you know what? Like, if I like think all the I was talking about my grandma to someone, and my grandma's kind of a narcissist, and we are always told that we're the same person. And I'm like, wait, so if she's a narcissist, then am I a narcissist? Literally just had this thought like yesterday.
Well,
true, though.
So I don't
thing.
Gaslighting is a thing. And I don't know if this happens in your family, but I'm told very often that anytime I'm proud of myself or like excited about the podcast or anything, that I only think of myself, or one of my fun ADHD symptoms, since I'm undiagnosed, untreated, is in the middle of you telling a story, if I don't already have like a planned fidget activity, I will zonk. And so I will ask people to repeat themselves, and they're like, you're never listening to us. You just feel like we should be listening to you. And I'm like, no, I just don't have ADHD medicine. The doctors won't give it to me.
Oh my God. I just recorded an episode with a lovely woman that was later in life diagnosed with ADHD and autism.
Yeah.
And we just talked about that, like that very thing. It's a real thing, you know?
My counselor, who I love, she believes that I can manifest anything that I desire and that all of my rocks and crystals help and that I should be drinking moon water. She believes everything that I say, except for, I think I might have ADHD. And then she just like tilts her head like, there's still such a stigma that because we have our shit together, we can't have it.
Yes. So actually, I am a school psychologist in my career. And it's my job to diagnose people with various disorders. Yeah. Technically, ADHD is a medical diagnosis, so I technically don't diagnose it, but I do all the diagnostics, and then I give it to the doctor for them to make the diagnosis. Whatever. Anyway, there is when you look at the criteria, there is a stigma or an expectation that you have to be non-functioning to get that diagnosis.
Right.
And that's not true. There are a lot of very successful, high-functioning individuals that do have that brain chemistry, and it is hard to diagnose. As someone that does the evaluations, it is.
It is. When I was teaching, I found those evaluations, you almost need to be doing them while the child is in the room, but there's no way to be doing that because you're teaching.
Yeah. Yes.
So then you're just trying to be an adult with ADHD and recalling whether or not a child also has ADHD. And you're like, what have they acted like this past week?
Trying to do the ratings or whatever. Yeah. You're trying to figure out what are they like? I don't even know. Well, when you're a teacher, you have 30 kids to keep track of.
That's also true. So let's get into this relationship, because this is a relationship that I believe, does it start off your podcast when I look at your timeline?
Yeah. So essentially, I had this very traumatic event. I'm going to tell you all about it. But the traumatic event that happened to me as a result of this breakup, I needed to process it and share it in a way that I knew wasn't going to come across on my Instagram.
Yeah.
And so I went back and forth with different modalities that I could tell this story and keep my authentic voice and articulate all the things I wanted to articulate. And it came down to, I decided to create a podcast. And as I was like recording that part of it, I realized I don't want to create a show about me the whole time.
Right.
So I spun it in that I was going to have other women come on and like share their stories too. And then I recorded my episodes after I kind of decided that that's what I was going to do. And it has changed my life. But this traumatic event also changed the trajectory of my life as I knew it.
I couldn't imagine talking about my traumatic events or even trying to process these things as like a solo podcast where it's just me in my head doing the thing and not having at least someone gauge or keep me going or all of that.
It took a long time to record it. So
I'm sure
my episode, my story is, it's long. It's in 3 parts and I'm sure part of it is because I did it solo, but also it was just, there's just a lot there. And it really, I needed, like for me, in the past, when I've had trauma, like for example, 8 years ago, I was sexually assaulted, and how I processed that was partly therapy. And I went to individual therapy and group therapy. But what I did as a result of going to therapy and talking it through was I wanted to publicly share my experience and help other people. And that's whenever I have something happen to me, a huge part of my healing is being able to make meaning out of it for other people. So I published a blog like detailing my whole sexual assault. And that was almost 10 years ago. It was right as the Me Too movement was happening. And so people weren't posting about stuff like that, and it was really intense. I mean, the response I got was super intense. Like people were shook that I publicized it. But for me, it was like incredibly healing. And so I knew that I needed to do something similar to this story, but it was way more involved and spanned over a way longer period of time. So that's how I got. And people just like my voice. I keep getting told I have this like great podcaster voice. They're like, it's kind of like sexy and husky and like easy to listen to. Like I like listening to your voice. I get that all the time. Well, and so also, it just worked out.
It has a very friendly cadence to it. It's like we like met at Froyo or something.
Yeah, like very approachable.
Chatting about your blog.
Yeah.
Well, first off, whenever someone mentions a sexual assault, I always thank them for like trusting me and the space that we've created with that information. But also like, thank you for just trusting the collective energy by putting it on the internet, because as we all know in the society that we live in, we're not treated kindly when we talk about these things. And
no.
and we're usually told that we're lying about our own experience.
Yep. I'll talk about that. I can talk about that too. Once I tell my story, I've been called a liar and accused of this story being completely a farce. And it's, that was hard though. Like when I put out my sexual assault story, like I didn't know my rapist. Like we didn't have any personal connection. So there, like he wasn't, or anyone related to him wasn't there to defend that story. It was just my story, and it went to my social media platform essentially. But my podcast has gone far beyond that. And the people that I do talk about did listen, or people around them listened to it. And there was a visceral negative response to it. And so at first that was very difficult for me to work through. And I felt very like wounded and like I shouldn't have done this, blah, blah, blah. But it honestly, like after I worked through that, I felt even more empowered to continue to keep doing this, because I'm going to continue to show up because I know that this helps people. Right. I've gotten way more positivity than hate The only people that I've gotten hate from are literally people related to the guys that I dated. Like, that's it. And that's fine. They get to have their reaction. They get to feel the way they feel. I'm not here to control that. But I am here to help other women that have gone through something similar. And I have. And so I'm at peace with that. And if people want to call me a liar or tell me that I'm full of shit or I'm a disgruntled ex-girlfriend and that's why I'm going this far, that's their business. You know, I know my truth and what I'm doing, and I'm going to move forward with that.
When it comes to the circle of people around the people who have hurt us, I think it's like really easy to sleep at night and secure yourself that you are a good person who has curated a life that is good around you, right up until someone you love does something shitty. And then it's like, oh, if they did something shitty and now that woman is putting it on a podcast because she was so affected by it, does that mean that I too am shitty, or that I allow people around me to be shitty? Or like, what is this? Yeah.
I think it strikes a chord with the people that have that person in their lives, and then they feel this need to become defensive, not just for that person, but also to kind of justify for themselves, like, why do I entertain behavior like that?
We see like such a reaction like that whenever a celebrity gets caught doing something that we wish they wouldn't have. And then we're like, no, not the person who created my ringtone song that I sing every day.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of an example of like a celebrity I love that like did something shitty, but it's not coming to me.
So on an episode that I recently recorded with my friend Annie, I had completely misunderstood and just like miscomprehended because I'm not as on the thumb about everything as she was. So I had misunderstood the Vanderpump Rules scandal and why Stassi had gotten fired. And I was like, I mean, like she had started to become a good person. And Annie was like, no, you've never read her book. You've never listened to her podcast. She is not a good person. And this is why. And I was like, also, that happened like 10 years ago. And she's like, nope, it happened in the middle of the show, Natalie. It happened 2 seasons ago. And I was like, well, tolerators, once again, podcasting is humbling.
Okay, now that you're saying that, I am thinking of Real Housewives, Jen Shaw. I personally think Jen Shaw is like a POS, but a couple of my friends like love her. And they were watching, you know, all the trial because she got arrested for fraud or she's going to jail and whatever. I keep hitting my mic. Sorry.
You're good.
She was going to jail or whatever, and like my friends are like, but I still love her, and I'm like, she scammed like thousands of people, like, you know.
Also, while we're being transparent, because so many of my favorite songs happened in an age where you couldn't look at your phone and know who was singing that song, you had to trust the radio to remind you. I was walking around my home listening to the all 90s all the time station, and Bump and Grind came on, and I started doing my thing, looked at my phone and was like, fuck, that's R. Kelly too.
Oh, that's a great example. R. Kelly songs. I used to love that song. And the one where he's like, oh God, I'm gonna butcher the name of it, where you fly.
I Believe I Can Fly.
I Believe I Can Fly. Space Jam. Loved that shit.
Remix to Ignition, like pour one out.
You can't, like, you listen to R. Kelly and you're guilty. You're like, shit.
Shit.
It's a horrible person.
Shit. And I was like, this
it's
one
like a
too.
cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
It's like it is hard to reconcile when like there's one aspect of a person that you like or that you connect with or whatever, and then there's this other side of them that is not great. And it's a great example to compare with like celebrities, but I think when it's someone you know personally that's in your personal circle, it's even more intense.
It's so uncomfy.
It's very uncomfortable. And people avoid being uncomfortable. They avoid pain, they avoid difficult conversations, they avoid confrontation. So when somebody like me is like forcing a conversation or forcing an issue or bringing it to light, people don't like that.
No.
And they're going to have a really big reaction to that. And like tried to mentally prepare myself for that as best I could.
Mm-hmm.
But there's really nothing to prepare you for that. You just kind of got to deal with it as it comes. If you're going to do this, if you're going to make a choice to put all of your shit in the public.
Oh, then yeah, you have to be ready.
Yeah. I mean, I was as ready as I could be, but it was still painful. It was still hard to hear.
There's always a grieving process to when it's like, because you knew those people too, and you're like, okay, but you've also
these are
been
people I was like in love with.
Yeah.
I mean, these are people that I mean, especially two of the guys like that I talk about in my episodes, like I was in love with them. Like I thought I was gonna have a future with them. So now, I mean, I like now it's like because I put this out, like I couldn't even imagine having a conversation with them ever again.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? It just really closed the door. The door was shut, but like it locked the door.
Yeah.
To any type of reconciliation or closure.
Let's focus on the story that you definitely want to share.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
I've been calling him your high school sweetheart. Is that correct?
He sort of.
Yeah.
I'll explain that. In my podcast, I give all my exes pseudonyms.
Mm-hmm.
So I call him Voldemort. So I'm just gonna keep on with that, so I don't say his name.
Go for it.
So Voldemort and I started dating. We started dating when we were 16. So we were in high school. We dated for about a year, and he just got bored with me and broke up with me like right in the beginning of senior year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was devastated. I was completely fucked up. Like, and high school girls can be dramatic and like everything is the end of the world. But this truly, like at the same time, so like a month before he broke up with me, he like not pressured me, but we had a conversation about me getting on birth control.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I just like don't want to use condoms anymore. Like, can you just get on the pill or whatever? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm 16. I really don't want to ask my mom that. Whatever. I ended up doing it. And I went on the Depo shot, which if like you're a lady listening to this, like, and the Depo like has like the most side effects of like any of them. And I didn't know that I had a hormone like sensitivity, like any shift in my hormones just really fucks me up. So I did the Depo, immediately had all these side effects, one of them being depression. And so I started not acting like myself. I think that's ultimately, we were arguing more. And I think that's what's ultimately led to him breaking up with me right after I took the birth control. So I was having this like huge hormonal response also in addition to this breakup. And it did spiral me into a pretty dark depression that I ended up having to get medicated for. And it was just it was just a really like, it was just a hard time. Like it was really dark. And I felt very scorned. Within 2 weeks of him breaking up with me, he had a new girlfriend. They were like official on Facebook. I was so pissed. He like posted mean statuses about me being like, my ex is crazy.
Why?
Like,
why?
I don't know. Like,
it's a rhetorical question.
But like, I mean, just so petty. Like just petty. His girlfriend had it out for me. And this is a trend like that you'll find when I hear the story that their next girlfriend, like they fucking hate me. It's whatever. I guess I'm the common denominator. But anyway, so he started dating this girl. He dated her for like all of senior year. And then I was single and I was having such a hard time with the breakup. And then for my depression, I lost a bunch of weight. And so I was like feeling myself and I just went on like kind of a free for all and I was hooking up with guys and just like being kind of reckless, doing drugs, drinking, partying, like all the things. I went to college. My first semester of freshman year, kind of the same thing. I went to Michigan State, which is a pretty big party school. And then the like beginning of my second semester of freshman year, him and that Voldemort and his girlfriend broke up. And he immediately reaches out to me. There was a couple other times that we had interactions in that year, but like basically after they broke up, he reaches out to me and he's like, I should have never broken up with you. You were a great girlfriend. Da 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 da. And I was like, okay. And I just like, And all my friends are like, this dude like fucked you up, like totally like almost ruined your senior year, and like you were so heartbroken by him. Like, why are you going back to him? And I'm like, I don't know, but I just have this intuition that I'm supposed to do this. And honestly, today I still believe that's true.
Well, and because it jump started this.
Like, yeah, like yeah. And I believe I have a strong intuition. Mm-hmm. Like I have a little bit of psychic, a little bit. I haven't really like honed it in, but I have a really strong intuition. And when I get that nudge, I know to follow it. And so I did.
Also, it's a big adrenaline and ego boost when they come
when your ex comes back. Totally.
Like, and it's always right after they're irritated at someone else, and all of a sudden you're the prettiest rose in the rose bush, and they're like, oh, what was I doing mistreating you the entire time? And I'm always like, being a moron. That's what you're doing.
And I gotta say, I didn't even go into this on my podcast because I have like too many family members that listen to mine, but we had this exquisite sexual connection.
Oh yeah.
And I was going around hooking up with all kinds of guys, and I couldn't replicate it. Like I even got to a point where I was like, people were like, oh, are you over Voldemort? And I'm like, mostly, like, except his, like, our sex. Like,
right.
He had an amazing dick. Like, just of all the things, you know? And so I got back together with him. And so that was like January of 2012. So between January of 2012 and April of 2020, we were pretty much together.
Okay.
For all of that. There were a few breakups in between because I would catch him cheating on me. He cheated on me when we were in high school too, but there's so many examples. It would take me all day to like go through point by point of our 10-year relationship, how toxic it was. But essentially, he cheated on me a lot. Additionally, a big issue in our relationship that caused us to break up a couple times was, so like I said, I'm a psychologist. And so in order to become a psychologist, you have to be, and I went to Michigan State. In order to get into Michigan State, you have to be somewhat of a good student. So I've always valued academics, and Voldemort was not like that. Like, he really struggled in school, and he ended up not finishing high school. And for a long time, he lied about that and kept that a secret. And then it was easy to figure out, though. And I called him out on it. And then it was like this, I don't know, 8 or 9 year long battle of trying to get him to finish, like to get his diploma or his GED. And I am such a like codependent enabler. I tried so many different things to get him to do that. So that was a big issue in our relationship as well. So he was very resentful of me because I was always trying to get him to like be better and to like strive for anything, to have a career, to go to trade school, to like do anything. And he just never did. And like the more that I would push, the more he would dig his heels in. And so I decided that because we broke up a couple times about it, he dated a couple other people, got into like a couple serious relationships when we'd break up. But we were never broken up for more than like 3 months at a time. We probably broke up like 3 times, I think. So anyway, like fast forward from 2012 to 2018, we moved in together. And that was probably like the best point in our relationship. I felt like I had arrived. He still hadn't finished high school, but I had kind of just built my life around that was never going to happen, and that I was going to be the breadwinner, and that I needed to take care of everything. And I knew I had a passion about education, and I wanted to be a teacher, but I knew that like that wasn't going to make enough money for me to sustain our family by myself. So that inspired me to go to grad school and get a psychology degree and try to become like a psychologist instead. And I just was really building myself to just do it all and have him come along with me.
And then do you think he had a hand in you being so for like building a life that he could be a part of, and you kind of crafting this like ideal world where you're supporting him and it's fine?
that he had a hand in it and like he manipulated me into doing that.
Do you think that was part of it? Or do you think, because I also just get swept up in the like, well, you're here and you're my relationship, so I got to do this.
I honestly think it was more a testament to just like my extremely low self-worth. That like I wasn't gonna be able to find anyone else, and like this was my person. And after so many years went by, then it just became a stubborn thing of like, well, I've spent this much of my life doing this, like I am gonna make this work, and this is what I chose to do.
This is Natalie Katona, host of the podcast To All the Men I've Tolerated Before. Are you a business owner that would like to start advertising on podcasts and want to work one-on-one with the podcast host to craft the perfect message for your business on an episode? Well, you're in luck. I'm a one-woman operation, and I have ad space open on future episodes of To All the Men I've Tolerated Before. If you are interested in learning more about booking an ad with our show, please email me at menI'veToleratedBefore@gmail.com. Thanks, and I can't wait for our future collaborations.
And I have this like warped belief that like my life would be over if I didn't follow through with my plan.
We don't live under the rule that choices don't have to be forever. Like every choice feels like it has to be forever.
Especially when you're young. Especially when you're young and you don't have as much experience like going through like significant changes. I had never had my world. I'd been through hard things but I had never had my like world rocked yet.
Right.
And so I was like, this is the track. This is what I'm going to do. And I was raised in such a traditional environment that it was like achieve, do, go. And so anything you put your mind to and you work hard enough, you will succeed. So I have this like whole belief that like, I just have to work harder. And I
have to be doing the right thing all the time.
I show up differently and I say the right thing and I put all of these the right things in place. This will work. And it was just pure stubborn energy. I can't say that he manipulated me into that because I don't believe he was intelligent enough to do that. I'm so sorry.
No, I love that.
But like, I don't think he had the skill to manipulate someone like
because
that.
I think that's important too. I think it's important to like kind of sit and recognize like, what was I willing to put up with just because for whatever reason, my brain wouldn't tell me that there was another choice.
It was all me. And it was a lot of like unprocessed and unrecognized childhood trauma and just the way my unprocessed toxic family dynamics that I hadn't worked through and that had caused me to have this really low sense of self-worth and this need to achieve and succeed. And if I fail, then I'm worthless. And it was all me. And that's what I talk about in my podcast is like, I broke my own heart like that. There were so many opportunities for me to leave. There were so many. There were so many times. I remember vividly, we had this one argument and I just remember we were sitting in his driveway. Well, he lived at his mom's house, but whatever. We're sitting in his driveway and we were breaking up again about something or another. I think it was the high school thing. And he was crying and he was like, why? Like, he's like, just leave me. I am a piece of shit. I am never going to amount to anything. And I was like, well, that's just simply not true.
Oh, don't worry. I can do something about this.
I will fix this. And I decided I was going to fix him. Like, he had so much childhood trauma, like legit childhood trauma. He grew up with abuse. He grew up with neglect. He grew up struggling. I mean, he had really bad untreated ADHD. That's ultimately why he didn't graduate. He tried to commit suicide his sophomore year of high school, and he had a 50-50 chance of living, and that also set him back. And so there are these like really traumatic things that he genuinely did go through that created this. But also the way that he coped through that was to just kind of stick his head in the sand and like do nothing and be in complete denial. So like, and just be very impulsive. So like he would cheat on me. He would just make really, really poor life decisions over and over again. And so we would break up, we'd get back together. And then finally around 2017, 2018 is when I just reconciled with like, I'm not going to make him do anything, but I'm going to enjoy my life and just create my own stuff. I'm not going to worry about him anymore. And ultimately, when I kind of changed the energy, our relationship got better because I wasn't like pressuring him all the time to do all of these things. So we started really getting along. And then he started to like, it started to click for him more. And he was like, you know what? Like, I actually think I am going to go get my diploma and I am going to like reconcile. He had this like whole story with his dad and whatever. I'm going to reconcile with my dad and all these like really big things that were like super healing for him and me really. So anyway, into like 2018, 2019, I ended up buying a house. And my plan was that we were going to get engaged right after I bought this house and we were going to get married, have kids, the whole shebang. And I bought the house and about 2 months later, he lost his job. He got laid off. And at that time, he was in like an adult education program to get his GED. And I said, I remember so vividly. I came home from work. I get out of the car. He gets out of we came home at the same time. So we're getting out of our cars at the same time. And he comes up to me and he's like, yeah, I got fired. And I was like, haha, it's funny. Cause he used to like he would say stupid shit like that. And I'm like, haha. He's like, no, like actually, like I actually did. And I'm like, okay. All right. Well, here's what we're going to do. I am going to take care of all the financial stuff. I'm going to pay all the bills, whatever. And then you're going to focus on finally finishing this GED while you're not working. And you're going to be looking for a job and you're going to figure out your next step. Like this is the universe giving you time to finally do that. And you're also to earn your keep, whatever, because we weren't engaged. I'm like, you can, clean, cook, do all the house things while you're home. Okay, so that didn't happen at all. Within like a month, he's like playing video games all day, completely in a depression, just totally like a mess. And I'm resentful as fuck. I'm pissed. So then like our relationship just kind of starts to deteriorate. We get in these like really epic fights. And things just aren't going well. And so this leads us into the pandemic. And right at the top of the pandemic, we were actually discussing like potentially him moving out and not him. We didn't get to that point, but he had said like literally the day before the shutdown, he goes, do you think that this has we have run our course? And I was like, not, you know what, at this point, like, I don't even know.
I mean, maybe.
I was so frustrated. He actually had finished his GED at that point, and everyone was like, aren't you like so relieved? And I didn't even care. And then because at the same time he finished his GED, I was like in his email pulling a resume or something to help him apply for a job. And I found all these dating app emails of like notifications. So I'm like, oh, he's pretty sure he's cheating on me again. It's fine. And so it was just like, and I was like ignoring it. Like I just became like very just numb and just like, this is just fucked. Like I'm so miserable. And I was going to therapy and I was going back and forth with my therapist. Like, how am I going to get out of this relationship? I've never been able to get out of it before. I've had so many opportunities to leave, so many things. And I can't do it. Like I can't bring myself to do it. And I was hyping myself up for literally months. I even brought him to therapy with me to try to work through some of it. And like, I was literally like spending all that time trying to bring myself to do it.
And I think we get into a mindset where it's like, what, I'm going to leave now? Like, I mean, that's
what it was like. I'm like, I put up with this for now almost 10 years, for 9 years. Like, I mean,
what makes it different today? Now I gotta go through a breakup.
I know that I'm gonna break up with him, and I know I'm gonna immediately want him back, and it's gonna be all this drama. And like, why? Like, let's just not do that. I'm not doing that. So then the pandemic hits, and we're like, okay, you know what? Let's table that because I don't know what's gonna happen. I think the world might be ending. Don't know. So we quarantined together. for about a month. And April 17th, 2020, I remember the date. I was sitting in my home office and I was working late, and I get a Facebook message and my phone lights up, and I look down and I can see that the message is from a girl that I knew he had cheated on me with in the past. I didn't even see what the message said. I just knew it was from her. And I was like, in my mind, I literally in my head said, and this is it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I again, that intuition of like, and this is it. So I open up the message and she says, hi, I'm sorry to bother you, but I just think it's time that you finally know the truth. And this picture below is a picture of my daughter, and she is also Voldemort's daughter, and she is 7 years old, and he's known about her this entire time. He cheated on you and got me pregnant, and he hasn't told anybody that he has a daughter, but I'm tired of keeping her a secret. She's 7 and is asking questions about her dad and wants to know who he is, and I'm hoping you can help me finally get him to meet her.
Wow.
And I was like, what the fuck? I didn't respond to the message. I just picked up my phone. I like dropped what I was doing. I immediately walked downstairs and Voldemort was standing in the kitchen making cauliflower crusted pizza. This matters when I get to another part of the story, but he was making cauliflower pizza, and I just hold my phone up to him and I'm like, read that. And so he reads it and he looks at me and he goes, I don't know why she's doing this now. And I'm like, this is actually real. Like, you actually know about this. He didn't even try to deny it.
Just
Nothing.
immediately also projecting onto her, just being like, well, why she got to stir up shit now? Well, she just plainly said that she has a kid who's in some sort of emotional state, and now she wants your dumbass to be involved. I don't know.
Which is a horrible idea.
Right.
And spoiler alert, he never got involved. But
of course not.
But essentially I was like, like, you're a fucking hypocrite. Like I said, he had this whole issue with his own dad. He didn't talk to his dad for like 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you're such a fucking hypocrite. Like, you're the first one to talk about how deadbeat of it, like your dad is. And you're going to sit there and not even acknowledge your own child. You're a piece of shit. I'm literally just screaming. I'm crying. It's like it's a scene. But we're in the middle of the pandemic, so we're stuck together. Mm-hmm. Like, there's nowhere really to go. Not even to someone's house. Like, that was like the bad part of the pandemic, where you weren't even going to your friends' houses. Like, it was like, stay the fuck home. So it was devastating and very isolating. And I also didn't tell anyone right away because I knew how codependent I was, and I knew that there was a chance that I was going to maybe change my mind about how I was going to deal with this. So, but really the underlying feeling was like, no, there's no way I can spin this. Like, if I stay with him, I'm endorsing that it's okay to like abandon your child, and I just can't do that. And I told him, I looked at him and I said, I can't keep this secret. Like, I can't keep this a secret for you. Like, I'm not sorry. I cannot do that. I will not do that. And so it like basically came down to it. I was like, listen, if you make an effort with this child, I will help you. I'll help you. We'll figure it out. We have a house. We have a 3-bedroom home. Like, we can do this. I don't want to, but we need to. And he was like, no, we just need to be done. Like, you and I are like, I'm like, if that's like the only condition to our relationship, I'm done. I'll walk away before I do that. I'm like, you'll walk away from our 10-year relationship, and before you try to have a relationship with your own daughter, your flesh and blood. It's like, yeah, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want her. Like, he's like, I don't care. He goes, I know this is horrible, but he goes, I don't give a fuck about her.
What a guy.
And I was like, okay, yeah, we're clearly, there's nothing else here. So, he starts like packing up his stuff, and he's like crying, and he's like, I know I ruined my whole life. Like, I'm such an asshole, da 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 da. And I'm like, yeah. Gets in his car to leave, and his fucking shitty ass car wouldn't start. And he's like slamming his fists on the driver steering wheel, and he's like, I don't deserve to like come back inside. I can't be here. I can't leave. It's the pandemic. Da da da. I'm like, breathe. Just come inside. We'll figure it out. So he ended up staying like an extra week or so.
Mhm.
And that was, I don't know if that was a blessing or not, but during that time, I found out that I was pregnant. And the timing of that was something else.
Mhm.
And I, my whole life, have said, like, I'm very I'm pro-choice, but like not for me. That's what I always used to say. I was like, no matter what, I've always wanted to be a mom. I have the means to be a mom, and I'll make it work.
Mhm.
And like, even if Voldemort leaves or whatever, and I can be a single mom, like, I can make it work. But the circumstances were so different in that I was not very like mentally healthy at that point. And it was just different being in that, like, a guarantee that I was going to give birth to a child that was going to have a deadbeat dad, like, no matter what. Because he was, as soon as our relationship was over, like, he was going to not be involved.
Right.
And so it was just a really, really hard choice to make. And I confided in a couple people that I knew had like been through an abortion and made that choice, and talked it through and decided that that's what I was going to do. So again, it was hard to get an appointment because it was like the pandemic, but I ended up getting one, and he and I agreed that we were going to do it together because we made this mess and whatever. So he took me to the appointment, and like stayed with me through the recovery, like, because I did the chemical abortion, so you actually pass it at home.
Yeah.
So it's like way longer of a recovery than if you do the procedure. And I don't know, at like maybe 2 days after it or whatever, he was like, all right, I really gotta leave now. Like, we're done. Like, you had the abortion. I think you're okay. I'm gonna move out now. I'm gonna move back in with my mom. And then it was just me. And I spiraled. And I believe I spiraled partly, I said, that hormonal imbalance. And with birth control, and I think taking the chemical abortion like really fucked up my hormones. And I spiraled into the darkest depression I'd ever experienced. And I was trying to get Voldemort to come back to stay. I was like, I don't think I can be alone. And he was like, we're done. I'm not coming back. I can't be that for you. Like, you need to essentially like leave me alone. And so then I started flirting with the idea of suicide. And I attempted to take my life, but I told Voldemort that that's what I was planning, and he came over and stopped me. And he didn't tell anyone that I did that, but he stayed with me, and it was really like a weird thing. Like, I was like trying to get him to like touch me or like hug me, like literally like hug me, like not like have sex or whatever. And he was just being really weird. Well, it turns out that within a week of him moving out, he was seeing someone.
Oh.
And I found on his Apple Watch, he had a contact in his phone called Baby Girl. And I see all these texts from her freaking out, like, you're going to your ex's house. What the fuck? Da, 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 da. And so then I lost it again, attempted again. And then I told my therapist that time, and I was hospitalized. But I did a partial hospitalization, so I went home at night. And so Voldemort agreed to stay with me through my partial hospitalization. So we moved back in. And that no one wanted him to move back in. And like, I had multiple family members that were like, we'll come stay with you. Like, multiple friends that were like, we'll stay with you. Cause I like, the terms of the hospitalization was I could not be alone.
Right.
And I had so many people offering, and I was like, nope, just want Voldemort, like that. And he's going to be here, and that's what I'm doing. And like, leave me the fuck alone. Like, that's what's happening. And so throughout that summer of 2020, like, he was kind of in and out of staying with me. And finally, like, I was stable enough. I got on medication, but it wasn't the right med. Like, I wasn't doing good, but I was stable. Like, I wasn't suicidal, but I was still a fucking mess. I regretted the abortion. I was really, really struggling with like the guilt of that, of my relationship ending, of my life, my vision of how I thought my life was going to be. And so end of August, he finally like leaves and he started seeing someone else and was like, and dated that girl for a long time, like a year and a half. And anyway, I started dating also, which was a tragic idea. I was very mentally ill, but I started dating also. And when I was dating, these meds I was on a mood stabilizer. So like, I'd never been on a mood stabilizer before, but essentially like it took my personality away. Like I was just very flat.
Right.
And so when I was dating these guys, they would be like, "You're so shy. You're so quiet." And I'm like, I am like, that is not me at all. Like, what the fuck? And so I just stopped taking them. I stopped taking my meds. And within 4 weeks, I spiraled back into a suicidal episode. Tried to kill myself again and ended up in a inpatient hospitalization program that time in October of 2020. And that was like rock bottom.
Yeah.
That was the last time, the couple days before I went into the hospital was the last time I saw Voldemort. I somehow convinced him to come over, like arbitrarily. I don't know. I was like, you left something here. I don't know. I like made up some reason. And he came over and I told him like, I'm going to kill myself, da, 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 da. And he's like, you know, like you need to get help. Like, I can't help you. Like, you need professional help. Like, go to the hospital. And I was like, I'm just going to kill myself. Like, you know, and but instead of him like, okay, I'll stay here, whatever, he was like, I gotta go.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up in inpatient that time. And the last time that was the last time I saw him, was me standing on my porch and him getting in his car and me being like, yeah, you're never going to see me again because I'm going to be dead. And he was like, I really hope that you get help, Katie. And he got in his car and left. And I texted him when I went into the hospital. I told him I was going. And he was like, I just hope you get better because you deserve that. And I hope that this worked. Like, I really do hope that you get better. So after that, it became very clear to me that I couldn't live alone. And so I owned my house. I had a career. I have cats. I have, you know, like whatever. I'm like, and now I am, but was a fully functioning adult. So I sold my house. I moved back in with my parents, brought the cats, and hit the reset button and just completely started over, really dedicated myself to therapy. And I finally got put on the right medication. And that was like night and day. Really re-engaged with my friends. And then like the pandemic, people were starting to go out more. So I was able to get out and like be with other people and my friends. And that led into like the year after that. So like 2021. And I talk about that in my podcast too. But like essentially I went on like a slut for all and I just started dating a lot. And I was really avoiding processing that trauma. And processing my pain and processing how I got there. Like, how did I get that low? Like, how did I get to that dark of a place? I just stuffed it and just started having sex with guys and dating guys that have like a rotation of like 4 or 5 at a time. I would go and drink with my friends 4 or 5 days a week. And I just started to like avoid and mask all that pain. So then I met Bueller, who is the other ex-boyfriend in my podcast. And Bueller and I ended up getting into like a somewhat serious relationship. And I thought once I met him that like that was going to solve everything. Like I was going to be healed because I was in love again. And I was going to marry this guy. And he had a house and his like a job and a degree and like all the things. And I was like, okay, like, no, I'm good. Like, that was really hard, but I'm good now. And he ended up being super fucking toxic. And he was transphobic, racist, just like a super negative person, like
Yeah.
really, just really like a Debbie Downer, just really hard to be around. Um, and but I started to do the same thing where I was like, I'm going to fit a square peg into a round hole and I'm just going to make this work. Like,
So it's so amazing because I get into that pattern too, where I recognize that when I am in relationships, I will do all of the things to be like the relationship. It's really great, full well knowing that it's not great, full well knowing that I need to be out, but also full well knowing that like I can do anything. I have no idea what that is. And then in between relationships, I'm like, fuck it. I could take or leave partners.
no, see, I didn't do that necessarily. So like then like these other guys that I was on rotation with, like that's a whole other episode, but like I would chase them and be like super anxious attachment.
Mm-hmm.
And like I talk about one of them because he's the most notable, is I call him Golden Boy because he ended up peeing on me when he was drunk on accident. Like he like pissed himself. It was so bad. So anyway, like he's a great example of a guy that like literally like looked me in the face from the very beginning and was like, I don't care about you. I just want to have sex with you. I have no desire to have any other connection with you other than that. And I just continued to pursue it. And I was like, if I just have sex with him like enough times, like he'll come around, he'll change his mind. No, never did. And there's like a whole drama between Golden Boy and Bueller and like whatever. It's a whole thing. But essentially, Bueller was just we were not compatible.
Right.
And he ended up breaking up with me like at the end of August of 21. So like 10 months ago. And I was like fucking wrecked. I was like, God damn it. This was supposed to be the solution to all the stuff I went through. Like, I don't deserve this. Like, I deserve to be happy. I deserve to be in a relationship. I want to get married. I want to actually do have kids. And I was just so like, just frustrated. I was so frustrated. I tried dating again, but at that point, after Bueller and I broke up, I was like, this isn't working. Like me going and like there's a couple guys that I liked that like they just weren't emotionally available, and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
I can't do this anymore. It got to a point where I couldn't.
I also hate it when it's their idea to break up, where it's like I've done all
I
of
had
this
so
work.
many opportunities to break up with this motherfucker.
Right. It's like I've hated you for 2 months and my entire body won't let me walk away from this relationship because for whatever reason I have to have a can-do fucking attitude about you and I.
So true.
And then you want to look at me over tacos and be like, I think we should break up. Motherfucker, I've been thinking that for 5 months. Do you think I let myself know?
Like literally there were so many times that I should have broken up with him that inside I was like, I don't like you.
I don't
want to be around you. The day we broke up, I talk about it in my episode. Like we had sex that morning and it was awful. Like it was like soulless. Like there was nothing between us. Like I can't even describe it. And I remember going into his bathroom and looking at myself in the mirror and being like, this isn't it. This is not, you did not come back from the dead to fuck for this. This was not fucking it, and you better figure it out. I remember looking at myself and being like, this isn't it, Katie. I don't know. This isn't it. And literally like that afternoon, he dumped me. And I was like, okay. But it was still super, super devastating. And then it was even harder because within like a month and a half, he got back together with his ex that he had dated for like 4 years. And they broke up like 4 years prior. Like they'd been broken up a really long time.
Yeah.
They ended up reconnecting on like dating apps and they got back together. And I was just like, why does this happen to me? Like every guy that I am somewhat serious about or somewhat likes, I'm like a fucking good luck Chuck.
Well, so I think what it is that men have a hard time being alone because a lot of my exes, save for probably the last one, and it's probably because he's never going to get anyone to date him ever again. Like it was just like, pandemic got me lonely and touch starved, so you got one. And that was your one.
But this guy, like my ex, had been single for like 2 years or whatever, like a long time before we started dating. So when we broke up, I'm like, cool, he's not going to do what Voldemort did. He's like not going to jump into a relationship. He's going to be single. And lo and behold, he is in a relationship, and I have good sources that his girlfriend moved in with him, and they're getting engaged this summer. And I'm like, or like they're maybe getting engaged this summer, but that's what I heard. And literally, I'm just like, what the fuck? Like,
it is infuriating because it's like I was working so hard. And at the end of the day, someone else gets to benefit from my hard work.
Yeah, fucking A. I made this motherfucker ready for you, bitch. No, whatever. Anyway, so I got to like this, not suicidal. I was very medicated and very stable in that, but I was just like so frustrated. I was so frustrated. So I ended up hiring a dating and heartbreak coach named Claire the Heartbreak Coach. And her program is a year long, and she has a very specific process on how you like heal from your heartbreak and you heal your patterns in relationships so that you can start to date authentically and like cleanly. Like you can essentially date without all your fucking bullshit keeping you attracting these like toxic relationships. And I needed that. And part of it was a pretty big investment for me to invest into this program. And one of the big things for me was she was like, you're not going to have sex with, go out with anybody until I say you can. And I was like, I've never done that. Like, I've never done that. Yeah. I was either with Voldemort or I was fucking other people or I was with Bueller or whatever. Like, I've never been alone since I was 16. And she was like, and that's exactly why we're doing this. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to. And I didn't want to. I bucked against it. I relapsed a couple times. But ultimately, like, I have been forced to look in the mirror and really clean up my stuff. Yeah. Like, hold me accountable. I'm attracting emotionally unavailable men because I'm emotionally unavailable to me. Narcissists and emotionally unavailable guys are always going to exist, but their noise does not matter when you are aligned. And that was something that I didn't feel that I was capable of doing. Yeah. Because I felt that like my stuff was just so deeply ingrained.
But my therapist loves to tell me, like, have you sat there and felt it? And I'm like, well, you know, I've come to the conclusion. And she goes, oh, you've sat there and analyzed it and you've thought about it, but you have not sat in your feelings because that would be allowing yourself to feel.
Yeah, and I just said that to my therapist a month ago or so. She was like, you have to like feel your feelings about whatever we were processing. And I'm like, so you're saying that I have to just feel my feelings about everything for the rest of my life? And she's like, yeah, that's the idea, Katie. Rude. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like, feeling pain, it was so ingrained into me that like you need to do anything that's possible. And this is the way that human beings are built. You need to do anything possible to avoid pain. Yeah. And so I did anything possible to avoid pain, except just feel the pain. And the ironic reality is that if you allow yourself to feel the pain, it will go away faster. And I just wasn't willing to go through that hard part. Like I was not willing to do that. I was not willing to be celibate and to look at myself in the mirror and to become emotionally available to myself. I was not willing to practice being kind to myself or allowing myself to be authentic and feel like my true feelings. And until I wasn't. And so this program really held me accountable to do that. And that's ultimately how I really ended up starting the podcast, is because I was doing that work. Yeah. And I wanted to tell my story for women that have a pattern of doing what I did and being codependent and being addicted to relationships and love and needing that external validation versus external validation. There's nothing that completely replaces it. Like, I'm not saying that, like, I'm not sitting here being like, and I love myself and I don't need anyone and I'm going to happy to be alone for the rest of my life. Like, no, I ultimately do want to find a partner and I know I will, but now I believe that I will. And I believe that I have the tools and the ability, the emotional capability to actually develop a relationship that's healthy.
Well, and I understand where women get to this point where they're emotionally unavailable to themselves, because every other woman in our life, we've watched them be emotionally and physically available for everyone else. And then, like, we don't see our mothers eat or sleep or any of it.
Yes. I mean, I've seen my mom abandon herself to bend to my dad's will multiple times.
And I have seen countless women in my life convince themselves, if I can make him an inch more happy, he will somehow give me a mile of happiness. And it's like, no, sis.
No.
He's going to take that inch.
Yourself. You're just abandoning yourself.
Yeah.
And you're not, and like, I just refuse to have boundaries. I refuse to hold myself accountable. And so I wasn't holding myself accountable. And so my relationships were mirroring that over and over. And even my casual relationships, like, I kept meeting guys that were like, I just don't want anything serious with you. You're really cool, but I just want to fuck you. And I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, I get that, like, part of that is modern dating, but like part of that is me being the common denominator and I'm attracting these types of people to me because that's the energy I'm putting out. And it's because I was just abandoning myself. If a guy, like, I wouldn't like say I would have sex with anyone, but like if there was even like a little bit of mutual attraction, like I would do it.
I would entertain it.
Yeah, 100%. And like that, and instead of having really clear boundaries of like, this is a non-negotiable. A person has to show up into a relationship with me, being emotionally available, having communication skills, like good time management, because like to be able to prioritize all the other things in their lives and a relationship, you need to have somewhat of good time management skills. And like those types of things, I would just be like, well, whatever, he likes me, so I'm just gonna fuck him. And I didn't even stop to think, like, does this person even meet like my bare minimum criteria of a partner I'd want?
At what point did I step back and go, wait a minute, do I fucking like you?
No, I never did that.
No.
I never did that. And it's even stupid stuff. Like, I have like, sorry, if any of my family's listening to this, but like, I would lie about like faking orgasms.
Yeah.
Like, I would be so uncomfortable with the idea of like a guy being upset that he couldn't make me have an orgasm that I would just lie and be like, did you come? I'd be like, yep, sure did.
100%.
And just completely abandon myself, or like being like, and like if a guy would be like, what do you like sexually? And I'd be like, whatever you like. Like, I never had a voice with men. I just let them do whatever they wanted to me. And then, like, for me, really the breaking point is when Golden Boy, I woke up in his pee.
Yeah.
And I was like, is this what I'm going to do? Is this what I'm going to do with the rest of my life? I'm just going to entertain any fucking Joe Schmo and I'm going to let them piss on me, literally or figuratively. And that's all I'm good for. It's just their fucking breadcrumbs when they feel like it. No, fuck that. I didn't do all this work on myself. I mean, it's like in a year, it's like I sold my house. I moved in with my parents. I committed to therapy. I cultivated all these new friendships and relationships and hobbies and bought a brand new condo, like created this podcast, got a new job, like all these things. And it's like, I deserve a really high level person because I'm doing really high level shit. I'm elevating myself. I'm committing to personal growth. I'm committing to my goals, and I'm following through with shit. And I deserve to be with somebody that's going to follow through. And that was really hard for me to get to.
No, it is really fucking hard because, I mean, take the sex thing. I have had men be mean to me when they can't make me orgasm. And I'm like, well, number one, it was a failure on your part. Like, my shit works. I make myself come every day.
I think I need like a sex therapist or something that like to help me. Like, because I struggle with that, like, personally. And I mean, but that's what I'm saying about my ex and I. Like, part of the attachment to him was we had this
I've been there too.
Life. And so he was like the only one that I could orgasm every time. And like, and that's still true. Mm-hmm. And I used to lie, like I would lie. If Bueller does ever find this, I lied every time, Bueller. I lied every single time.
Well, and then like questions like that, I feel like are just like leading to an argument. Like you're just trying to bait me into an argument.
Well, like one time with Bueller, like when we first started dating, he was like, "Did you come?" And I was like, "Oh my God, no!" Like that's exactly how I said it, and he was so hurt. Like he wasn't even mean to me about it, but he was just like, "Oh," and I felt so bad that he felt bad. So I was like, "Oh, I can never say that again. Like I just have to lie." And like,
but did he offer to do anything? Did he like grab the cause of action?
No, fuck no. He didn't give a shit.
Or the call to action? No. Between my first partner and my second partner, I became a mute in bed because my first partner used to shush me a lot in bed.
Oh, what the fuck? I hate that.
And then my second partner asked me, he's like, "Why are you like a mime in bed?" And I was like, "What?" He goes, "You don't make one noise when we are having sex." And my second partner had known me for a while. He's like, "You're loud every other moment of my life."
You just like trained yourself to be quiet.
Right. And I was like, "Oh, he used to shush me." Like, and he's like, "He used to what?" I swear my second partner was driven to like kick my first partner's ass every once in a while because he would ask me these questions and I'd be, and it was something trained. And I probably need a sex therapist or an intervention or something too, because at this point, if you ask me, well, what do you like in bed? I'm just like, I don't know, my vibrator, because I know it's a 100% success rate.
Literally same. And that's honestly like the only thing that worked with my ex is like, but then my ex and I would use that and like in combination with other things, and that would work for me. And that's fine. Like, but then I started dating this guy or seeing this guy hooking up casually, and I like brought my vibrator out, and he's like, "Oh, I'll let you do that, and then we can finish." And I was like, "No, like this is the part. Like wait, what?" And so I just like he shamed me for bringing my vibrator into it because like that is the only way that I can orgasm. And so after that, it's like, okay, well I guess that's weird. So like I guess I can't bring that into sex with a partner, which you can, by the way. You can, and it does work. But he would like, it just made me really self-conscious. And I think I've been made to be self-conscious in the bedroom by men. My body count isn't that big, but it's big enough that like I've had multiple experiences that weren't great.
One time, after a man had failed to make me come using my vibrator because he refused to take my directions, he then like threw it or something in a fit, and then like tried to reinsert himself inside of me or whatever, and then went, "Won't you like it if I titty fuck you though? That'd be cool." And I'm like, "No."
Like, no, and that's not gonna do anything.
And I like literally looked at him and I go, "What makes you think that's gonna be fun for me? Like, at what point? Like, you don't even."
I don't care, but it's like that's not gonna make me come. You fuck.
For one thing, you never even like. Here's the thing: like, I do have sensation in my breasts. They are a good time to incorporate into the bedroom.
Yeah.
But at no point have you even tried to incorporate them in a way that would make me feel good. So now you just want to defile them.
Yeah, like, titty fuck is defiling, isn't it?
Right, like.
But like,
Now
but
you
yeah,
just want to
again,
embarrass me because you failed.
but like that's what sucks, and that's why I
Yeah.
need a sex therapist. I think is because like the last time I did feel like very sexually liberated
Mm-hmm.
and just very comfortable and very satisfied was with Voldemort.
Yeah, no.
Still.
With
God,
my Voldemort too. Like
like,
with the one that like completely just wrecks you. I'm like, he had that good dick though.
but the difference is now is that if he came knocking on my door, I would run so far the other way. Like,
Oh yeah.
there's no sex in the world that is worth the pain that he put me in.
Yeah.
And so that's different. But yeah, I just really want to find a partner that's like willing to work with me a little bit. Like, work with me, dude.
Literally talk to me like I'm a human and we can have a conversation about like wants, desires, dreams, hope.
Yeah. It's
boundaries.
not just like make me come and we're done, or if you
Yeah.
don't, this sucked. I actually very much enjoy sex whether I come or don't.
I
Like,
just saw on Instagram today that there are 4 stages of sensuality. I can't name them right now, but I did watch a reel about it. And
okay,
like
I like
the
it.
3rd one is orgasming, and then the 4th one is afterglow. So there are 2 whole stages before you even get to orgasm.
I really am a sexual being, and
Mhm.
I really do enjoy sex.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of whether I finish or not. And I think that's true for lots of women because it is way harder for us to finish.
Mhm.
But like, and guys, like, I don't know. I mean, I know why they get all butthurt is because they feel like it's a direct reflection on them or their ability or whatever. And it's like, I just wish that we could just have an open dialogue about it and like work on it, work towards it. It's not a big deal. I still want to have sex. And like, but I was never empowered to create those types of conversations.
And there it is.
Like, I was very much like, ooh,
I don't even know where to
sex.
start with it.
Yeah. Well, for me, where it started is like being much more confident in myself. Like, that's now I feel more empowered to do that than I did before.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still hard. It's still uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, it's like but I want a partner that I can talk about uncomfortable things with.
Right. Also that.
You know, and that I can call, but this makes me super uncomfortable. But like, I have to, like, I want to do this. And I know that I will find that now, but I would never have found that if I hadn't committed to going celibate, to really being with myself, to leaning into the discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
Leaning into discomfort has been my theme of this year, and I'm leaning into it, and life just continues to be uncomfortable. And I keep asking, like, when is it not going to be uncomfortable?
Right.
And people are like, never, Katie. Like, that's the whole point. We're here to learn lessons and put love out into the world and figure it out. Like, it's not ever going to be easy, babe. And that's hard. Like, that's a hard lesson for my young self.
What a stupid system that we've chosen.
Stupid.
Well, Katie, we have come to the end, and we have 2 traditions on To All the Men I've Tolerated Before. I think we've already talked about your takeaway, and your takeaway is leaning into discomfort and loving yourself. But if you would like to sum it all up in another sentence, go ahead.
I mean, lean in and love yourself, and do that in spaces that are safe, like this one, like the Bitch Need to Hear This community, like with your therapist or a life coach or whatever.
Yeah.
But there are places for you to process and lean in. You don't have to do it alone.
And I think my takeaway is going to be exactly like the leaning into discomfort and like feeling your pain or whatever. Like, I love to tell children all the time that the reason why there were 4 characters in your brain for Inside Out, and it might actually be 5 now that I'm picturing them.
Yeah, I think it is 5.
Is because like all of the feelings in the pie chart are important, and they all get to like take up different like sizes of the pie at any given moment, except for me, where I just go, no, I'm never upset. It's fine.
All the feelings is how you take responsibility for your feelings.
Exactly.
Yes.
What would you hope for people who may or may not, because your story does like support a lot of things that women have or will be going through. So what would you hope for anyone who connected with your story today?
I hope that you know that you're not alone in your pain and that no matter how dark it gets and no matter how convinced you are that you're going to die alone and that there is no hope for you on the other side of a trauma or a heartbreak, there is.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't, and I couldn't hear that at the time, but I hope that listening to my story, and if you're in a similar situation, I hope that you there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and no matter how dark it gets, be kind to yourself.
I do want to thank you because all of the things that happened in your story are so personal. And I think it's wonderful that you took all of that and not only decided to lean into the fact that these things happened, but then you're like, I can still do something with this. It doesn't need to just be something that I put in a box or I write about in a journal and put on a shelf. Like, I can take all of this and I can still do something with it to where I get to build connection with the people around me.
Make meaning for the collective. Hopefully, you know, you hear some woman hearing my story, she doesn't have to get to as dark of a place, or she knows that there's places to get help, or I don't know, you're just inspired to keep going and keep trying. You know, I can't emphasize enough that if you do connect with my story, please reach out to me. Please reach out to me. Become a part of the Bitch You Need to Hear This community as well. And I just love to connect with people that relate to this story.
I think that's going to be my manifestation, that like, now that we've created a space, because we talked about that a lot when I was on Bitch You Need to Hear This, about how we're creating the communities and the spaces that people can come together and lean into that discomfort and know that there's a net in case you fall all the way over.
Right.
So I'm just hoping that our messages are reaching the exact people that they need to hear. And then those people are urged, and it might not even be reaching out to us, but like urged to take that support and that loving energy and then internalize it so they love themselves, but also find the people who are going to support you in that healthy way, who aren't going to look at you after 10 years and just go, I don't know why I need to be the one who's doing this. Well,
you know, unfortunately, my life coach says we're the lucky ones that we get to heal through and find each other and support each other. And yeah, sometimes I feel like that though. Why the fuck? Why me? Why me? I feel like that every once in a while, you guys. I'm not gonna lie. Lean into it.
Make sure to tell the tolerators everywhere they can find you. And Bitch, you need to hear this.
Bitch, You Need to Hear This is on every listening platform that you can think of except Pandora, because I can't figure out how to get listed on Pandora. But everything else I'm listed on. Find me on Instagram, You Need to Hear This. And if you're interested in sharing your story on my podcast, my email is beyouneedtohearthis@gmail.com. I'm in the process of making a website, but I don't know what the domain is going to be yet, so I can't share that. But if you find my Instagram, you'll also find my website.
And tolerators, you know the deal. We have a Patreon. We have an Instagram at Men I've Tolerated Pod. That Instagram contains a link tree. So does the show notes of this episode with the Patreon, the all the places to find it, all the ways to support, and the Fireside link so you can start coming to live shows. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so happy, Katie, that you and I have connected and we're friends. Facebook is a real stupid thing, but sometimes you strike gold.
Sometimes you do. And thank you so much for letting me share my story about all the fucking men I have tolerated before. All the fucking men.
And on that note, remember, tolerators, you don't have to smile through anything that you're tolerating, including a mindset that makes you feel like you're not deserving of the care and the love that you would like to input into other people. Smiles are for joy. Hey everyone, it's Natalie, and I'm just here real quick to tell you that To All the Men I've Tolerated Before officially has merchandise. So if you're looking for a really great way to support the show and get our name out there so everyone can be on Team Tolerator, consider following the link in our show notes or in the bio of our Instagram at Men I've Tolerated Pod so you can buy one of our title tees or see some of our holiday lines like our feminist spooky line that includes t-shirts like Misogyny is Monstrous or My Past Relationships Still Haunt Me with a beautiful haunted house on it. Happy spooky season, have a great day, and go shopping and treat yourself. You deserve it.